Welcome to A Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Courser. Ron Courser and Associates are planning today for the potential of tomorrow.
And welcome into the program. This is your Course to Retirement, Grand Rapids, your resource for a common sense approach to planning for your financial future, navigating the crazy, complex, often confusing financial world. And lucky for us, we have the resources at Ron Courser and Associates. With us today on the program is Nolan Goslee. And Nolan, a regular contributor to the program, welcome back. We are glad to see you.
Hey, thanks. Really nice to be here. I always like coming on the show and being able to provide some of that unique insight just from a different perspective. Yeah, happy to be here. Excited about it.
And since we last visited with you, some exciting personal news, some family additions.
Yeah, Leah and I welcomed our firstborn son, our firstborn baby, Elias Bowe, back in January of 2021. So kind of started the new year off right, have a new baby, got back to work, soon after. And yeah, it's been a really, really good blessing. It's nice to have another family member around for sure.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. And we know baby, mom are healthy and doing well. So get ready for the adventure there.
Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait. Looking forward to it.
It's awesome. So today we are going to be talking about the value of having a specific written income plan for retirement. And one of the biggest values, Nolan, to sort of sum up the program from the very beginning, is that it helps us to address many of retirement's greatest risks.
Sure. Yeah. When you address income planning, you get to take on risk kind of as a pastime. You assess a risk and you say, well, how do I want to take that out of my portfolio? And then you just kind of get to start taking these risks and notching them off. A lot of people, when they retire, don't want market risk. They don't want the risk of losing money, and so when you develop income planning, more specifically, how you're going to take money out of the portfolio you've spent your entire life saving up for, that's really where it becomes really pivotal, how to draw assets out of your portfolio.
So, Nolan, not everybody has a retirement income plan. And I think from your perspective, what you've seen is that it would provide measurable benefits, increase the confidence. Everybody really should have a retirement income plan in writing.
Right. And if you don't have a retirement income plan, well, let's talk about what happens when you don't. When you don't have a retirement income plan, you're basing your retirement on luck and hope, dreams, basically, where, maybe you have an asset allocation plan. You're able to position your assets within your tolerances. But as far as long-term, how you're drawing income, how you're going to take money out of your portfolio, which assets are designed for taking money out of the portfolio, those are things that are placed into an income plan. So the real difference there is, do you have a plan for taking income, or do you just have a plan for how your assets are invested? And those are two different things.
Well, if you don't know if you've got a specific written retirement income plan, probably an indicator that you do not. And maybe you want to address that planning deficiency. A lot of people have done good jobs in saving and investing, but maybe have incomplete plans. This is one of those steps that will help you complete your plan. And if you'd like to get that put together, the team from Ron Courser and Associates, Nolan, and the rest of the team there will help you put that retirement income plan in writing as part of your course to retirement plan. Now, that includes a snapshot of where you are currently, a discussion of and defining, writing down your goals so you know that you're working to achieve them, as well as step-by-step instructions, a timeline of executable action items in order to make those goals realities into the future. One of those steps, those executable action items, often is coming up with that written retirement income plan. So of course they will take the step to put that together with you as well. If you'd like to take advantage of that offer, that opportunity, pick up the phone, no cost, no obligation, just a phone call to get started, 616-301-2581. That is 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. If you're listening on the radio to the program, then you are always welcome to visit Ron Courser and Associates and find more resources available there. Editions of the program, podcast archives, lots of resources and references that we mention on the program available. And if you are watching the podcast or listening to the podcast, in the description below the video or somewhere around the links to the video, your invitation to like, subscribe, share this content, and again, to take advantage of the offer for that complimentary review and to get your course to retirement, the document, the plan in your hands. Or call again, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. So Nolan, you sort of differentiated there between an asset plan or an asset allocation versus an income plan. Could you maybe step back and explain that difference a little bit more and maybe define for us what an income plan is so we know if we've got one or not?
Sure. So an asset allocation plan is almost always inside of an income plan. So first and foremost, it's kind of like it fits inside of it. So an asset allocation plan is usually based on some sort of modern portfolio theory where they'll have an appropriate balance of risky and safe assets according to the tolerance that you give whoever designs the portfolio for you. If you're a much riskier investor, you'll have many, many more risky assets. If you're a safer investor, you'll have many more safe assets. So that's asset allocation. How are my assets actually positioned? What's my expected return, my performance over time, any volatility? All of those things are just asset allocation. Now, income allocation takes that one step further. So not only how are my assets going to be divided up and how are they going to be invested, but it goes into saying, okay, I have a traditional IRA over here, a Roth IRA over here, and a joint account with my spouse over here. Which account should I take money from first? Which account should I take more money from if taxes are higher? Which account should I take more money from if taxes are lower? Do I take a higher percentage of my withdrawals from one pot of money versus another? And do you have any money you don't need for 10 plus years? In which case you may not want that to be part of the income that you're receiving. And so an income plan really dives into the more specifics, the really quantifiable pieces about saying, here's my Social Security, here's my pension, here's my income gap, so how much I need versus what those two would give me. And this is how my assets are going to provide that income for me. Not because they're 60% stock, 40% bond, but because you've planned for how each piece of your income plan is going to kick in over time.
Would it be fair to say that the asset plan is good when we are contributing or deferring, whereas that written income plan really is about supplying our need to produce an income, supplementing the expenses and the spending?
For sure. And I mean, that's why you will never see income planning in your 401k, for example. I mean, they don't really care what you do with your money once it's out of the account. I mean, they may say based on your assets, you're projected this much income, but of course that's using past performance to gauge future results, which you can't really do. And so, in your 401k, yeah, when you're building wealth and when you're working and when you're just accumulating wealth as fast as you possibly can, asset allocation works well. You can become less risky in riskier environments, and you can become much more risky in less risky environments and take advantage of some opportunities. But income planning is just a tad different. It's not really trying to play the lows and the highs and everything. It's trying to give you that systematic withdrawals that everybody really wants in retirement.
So the need to have a different type of plan is because the needs for the dollars have changed. The direction of the money has changed. When we're contributing, asset allocation works well, and we hate to see downturns in the market, but if we're putting money in, it's actually an inherent advantage. Whereas when the direction of money changes and we start making withdrawals, we want to avoid those downturns because it could impact the longevity, the sustainability, the dependability of the income that we're trying to produce.
Well, exactly right. And when you have big losses and you're growing, like you said, it's not as important if you lose a little bit and you're 30 or 40 or 50, but when you do retire and make that transition, if you have, let's say, a 10% loss in your portfolio, but you're taking out 4% per year, well, shoot, you just had a 14% loss in your portfolio, which not only means you have more ground to make up, it also means you may have to become a little riskier with your assets. And that's if you only plan on taking income from an asset-based portfolio.
Again, if you have questions about whether or not you have a written retirement income, a specific plan for generating income through retirement, or if you'd like to double check it, or if you'd like to just get a look at where you are at with that comprehensive planning, the course to retirement, pick up the phone, give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Nolan, I'm certain that you have personally witnessed and seen the benefit that having a retirement income plan has meant for your clients' mental, emotional, financial well-being.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the coolest part about it for me, I'm all about education. So I'm all about teaching my clients. I'm all about trying to make it so that they know a little bit more each time they leave the office than when they came. Okay. And income planning is a wonderful opportunity for that because it requires you to be quite involved with how your finances are behaving. So when you talk to somebody that's actually going through their income planning process and you get to guide them year to year to year, you actually get to interact with the client and say, hey, do you remember this thing that we purchased at this time? Well, it's time to kick it on in another 6 months. And then when they come back in 6 months, they know exactly why they're doing what they're doing, what the benefit of it is, and how they're going to benefit long-term from it. And so income planning, it not only it does a little more than where your assets are and takes a little more risk off the table, but it does help teach and it does help engage people with their finances a little bit more because it is a little different than accumulating. It's not just set it and forget it like a 401k. It's a create a plan. Hopefully the plan works, but have contingencies and have your plan be fluid and make sure that you have the ability to work around in a variety of ways.
I love the educational approach, and I know that that is one of the cornerstones there of Ron Courser Associates and the whole attitude and philosophy of the firm, both on the health side, the wealth planning side, the retirement planning side. Nolan, not everybody wants to become a full-time financial professional once they retire from their career and their job. Having the written retirement income plan doesn't require you to spend 24 hours a day paying attention to your money and your finances. In fact, having this is really what allows you not to have to pay that close attention to the day-to-day, minute-to-minute, moment-by-moment movements of the market.
Right. You can think about an income plan very similarly to a lot of your, guaranteed streams of income where, you have some reliability, you have some predictability. I mean, there are some ways that you can even get some guarantees within your income plan.
You mean
And
like
it's-
pensions and Social Security?
Sure.
When you're talking about those, you generally don't have to worry about what the market's doing and how it affects those things.
Exactly right. And so that's why with income allocation, oftentimes when we're talking to people about them, we will designate, hey, this portion of your life savings is for your income plan. And this portion of your life savings is for this other part of your planning process where maybe it's part of the growth plan as opposed to the income plan. So there are a lot of different components in here, but you're exactly right. It takes away that systemic risk. It takes away a lot of the market fluctuations where you don't have to take variable income. Some people are comfortable with, taking out a range of money depending on how their portfolios do. Well, if you don't like that invariability, if you don't like the unpredictability of that, then an income plan is much more your speed. You don't want to have to maybe take variable income if your, expenses are much more fixed.
Nolan, Ron has spoken on the program about how assigning dollars of specific task increases the likelihood that you will achieve that job and the goals that you set for it. It sounds like you're talking about much of the same thing, sort of portfolio segmentation, assigning different dollars or segments of your portfolio to do very specific things for you.
For sure. And, it's the same thing that's been done in portfolios since portfolios have been around. I mean, the reason that you don't invest 100% in one stock is because you want to diversify into multiple. You don't just buy 10 because you can buy a mutual fund with 500. You don't just buy mutual funds because you can also buy ETFs and other things, and so it's continuing the progress of just creating sustainability, resiliency within the portfolio. It's just adding a couple more steps to take a couple more risks off the table. It's the same thing we do in every portion of our planning process. I mean, whether you're planning to drive down the road or whether you're planning to go to work. I mean, you plan all of these things. So, planning that income is also very important. You have to have money coming in.
How are the majority of people you speak with planning, and I'm using air quotes for those listening on the radio, for income before they come in and create a plan with you and the team there at Ron Corser and Associates?
Sure. So prior to coming up with a formal income plan and actually being able to work through all of that, we do require a couple different things. I mean, first and foremost, you have to know what you have. Okay. So you have to take inventory of all of your finances. And this goes beyond what's in your 401k, 403b. You have to know how much you have in liquid checking and savings. You have to know how much you have in other investable assets, other income producing assets. So taking stock and taking inventory is the first big thing.
And you'll help people through that process.
Exactly right. Yep. We have a whole list, checklist, multiple pages on that we can send out ahead of time prior to appointments so that people come in and they're aware of where all this stuff is. Yep. So we work through the inventory, where everything is, and then we'll work with people on budgeting. So actually coming up with, a plan. What's your cash in versus cash out? Do a little bit of homework on your own, come up with a budget for yourself. And then those two things really give us a good basic starting point where we can say, okay, here's everything that you have, here's everything that you spend, and then we start working backwards from there. Okay, where do you have guaranteed income sources from? You have Social Security, you have a pension. Does that meet all of your needs? Well, if not, that's when income planning starts. Income planning started at the very beginning, but that's when the actual income generation starts, where we identify a gap in income and designate a portion of the portfolio to fill that income gap. Now, it can be one portion, it can be three portions of the portfolio. It all depends on the person. But income planning from start to finish, it starts with the basics and it ends in a whole bunch of different ways.
So we've used a couple different terms here, and to me, they've got a little bit different feeling when we talk about them. One is budget. To me, budget feels like I'm limited. I can't spend a certain amount if I want to. We talked about spending plan, and that feels much more free. As I say that, I can spend, but it doesn't necessarily give me the confidence that if I do the spending that I want to today, that I'm going to be able to continue to do that and have the money to last throughout what could be 3 or more decades, 30 years plus easily in retirement. The written retirement income plan is kind of the in-between there, at least to me, with the emotional reaction I have when saying it, that allows me to spend freely, but also the confidence in the amount of restraint and control that I'm going to be able to keep doing it into future years.
Yeah, that sounds just about right. Where you have a lot of assurance that, your income is going to be there. That's the purpose of income planning. If you have assurance that your income is going to be there and you have a portion of your overall portfolio assuring that income for you, then you get to do basically whatever you want with anything you can make grow on top of that. We talk to people about vacationing all the time or renting condos or whatever. One thing we talk about is withdrawal rate risk, making sure that you're not taking out too little. You can take out too little, you can take out too much. If you have a good income plan, we've seen people that have had solid income plans still take out too little and have, in their opinion, too much money 5-10 years from now.
This is the Goldilocks plan.
Right.
Like as you're saying this, the 3 bears in Goldilocks, she went in too hot, too cold, just right. The bed was too soft. This one was too hard. And then the last one was just right. This plan is kind of that just right plan, the Goldilocks plan.
Exactly. And when it works so well. It hardly ever doesn't work. I mean, when you're planning for income in this manner, you can see the risks kind of being shoveled out of the portfolio. You can say, hey, I really don't like the risk I have in the market. You can alleviate a ton of that risk by creating a good income plan. You don't have to ride the coronavirus wave up and down 40 to 80% both ways, and so there are ways to alleviate those strains, those stressors.
And I think that's a perfect segue into now addressing the conversation of what specific risks does having the income plan help us to free our minds of, or at least worry less about. We want to maximize the areas that we have control over, minimize the areas that we don't have control over. We know we can't control the market. None of us as individuals personally have any bearing on what happens in the market, but having that written retirement income plan maybe allows us not only to continue utilizing the market, but perhaps with a segmented portion of our money and our assets, be even more risky or shoot for higher returns, let's call it, with the money that we're not counting and relying on in the near future.
Right. And that's the beauty of the income allocation process, is you really can delineate what different portions of your portfolio are designed to do. If you say, hey, I have X dollars and 50% of it is going to be my income generating, well, the other 50% of your X dollars can be 100% invested as aggressively as you want to at that point. If you know your income is met and you don't have any immediate cash needs, you can really do some fun stuff with the growth component of your portfolio on top of the income. Yeah, it gives you a ton of flexibility and really some freedom with what you're able to invest in, instead of just saying, well, I'm going to have all my money in the market, but because all of it's in there, I'm going to have to buy some bonds to be a little safer. I don't want to buy bonds right now. Bond rates keep going up. Bonds aren't looking too attractive. And so, if I'm developing a portfolio for myself, I might look elsewhere. And so income allocation does that too. It doesn't stay stagnant. It's always adapting, always changing, depending on tax environments, regulatory environments. So yeah, you hit it right there.
The number one fear of retirees is running out of money in retirement. And
For sure.
without the written retirement income plan, relying exclusively on the market, which we know is unpredictable, past performance never guarantees future results. We do have the potential for loss of principal in the market, money disappearing without us spending it or having anything to show for it. Retirement income has failed. That market-based plan has failed without the component to support it, which is that written retirement income plan.
Yeah. And, a lot of that failure is just the unpredictability of the markets. You see it, you don't see it all the time, but you do see it sometimes where, somebody will just come in and say, hey, I'm comfortable in the market and I know how the market's going to perform and I know how it's performed historically. And, they'll throw out an average. Well, I can throw out stock market averages too, but I don't know anybody who's been retired for over 100 years. So stock market averages can only get you so far. I think we need to look a little bit more recently. And when you look more recently and you just see these wild swings up and down, the past couple of years, pretty severe corrections, almost no warning, you start to see bonds and stocks starting to move together, or more volatility in the bond market, meaning they're less safe. So yeah, the markets constantly change. And with an income plan, you don't have to worry about a whole lot of that, because you already have your income taken care of. You're not relying on 8% average returns when some years it could be up 20 and some years it could be down 30. Like that's not good for somebody that's drawing income off of their portfolio.
But in no way are you trashing the market or saying stay away. You're a proponent and a fan of the market.
We invest in the market. Yeah, we invest in the market all the time. Yeah, the two go very well hand in hand together. And that's why we say asset allocation is a part of income allocation. So usually there will still be some mix of risky versus safe assets within a portfolio.
So I've got my income allocation plan. I've got my written retirement income plan. Where does the market then play a beneficial role in my total financial picture?
So typically when we're developing income plans, we try and fill your immediate income needs. Okay. If we can take your assets and take a portion of them and fill your immediate income needs through a variety of different investment types, then anything left over once your income needs are met will almost immediately be assigned to what we call a growth bucket. Okay. And a growth bucket is not something that always is the same for each individual client. It's not just like we have 5 or 10 stocks that we just throw your money into. At that point, your growth bucket can be literally any investment as long as you have enough money. But that component then becomes your long-term money. So let's say you have $100,000 in a growth bucket. If you can average 7% rate of return, then your $100,000 should almost double in about 10 years. So if you anticipate, yeah, I have my income taken care of, but I may need a significant amount of capital 10 or 15 years from now, well, that gives you a very specific objective with your growth bucket, where you can say, in particular, I want this money to be ready for me in 15 years. Well, shoot, then you can be an aggressive investor for 5 to 10 and then start to scale it back as you get closer to your purchase date for whatever you want that money to be. So it doesn't always have to have any specific purpose like that. Down payment for a home, payment for a car, student loan payoff for a grandkid, whatever. It doesn't always have to have a purpose. It could just be growth bucket to be there. But that's how we kind of delineate those two things. And, people use them for a variety of different reasons, vacations,
Nolan,
just growth, whatever.
Just a minute or two left in this segment of the program. But if I'm going to sum up what I just heard you say, truly having the retirement income plan can help us determine when, where, and how much market risk is appropriate for our situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it, and that's what a lot of retirees want to take off the table, because you see the risks, you see the volatility, you see the uncertainty. And, for somebody that already has the uncertainty of going from an entire lifetime of contributing to all of a sudden the rest of your lifetime of taking money out of your retirement portfolio, how many more risks do you really want to have? Your whole portfolio is already at risk of you taking money out. So, how many more risks? And the market risk is a big one for sure. Well, it's a good one, but big one. Yeah.
If we can achieve our goals without being overly risky, why would we want to potentially jeopardize our financial security, our lifestyle, by taking unnecessary risks? And I think that during our working careers, we've got the paycheck as we've earning income to support our expenses. Taking more risk helps us grow over time. But as we're making that transition to retirement, that written retirement income plan will help you to address risk, contain it, control it to that which is appropriate for our situation, and that which is necessary to achieve and accomplish your goals. And to arrive at that, it is the process of having the written retirement income plan, which is a part of the Course to Retirement plan. If you'd like to get that, pick up the phone, give a call. This is a snapshot of where you are currently financially, a discussion of your future goals and objectives so that you're making progress toward them and can meet those benchmarks, as well as specific recommendations from the team at Ron Corson Associates on how you can leverage your money, use it efficiently to achieve those goals. Pick up the phone, give a call, or click on the link around the video if you're watching on today's program, and take advantage of that offer from Ron Corson and Associates, from Nolan Goslee and the team on putting that plan together with you, for you. No cost, no obligation. Get your course to retirement. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to roncourser.com, roncourser.com. Quick break, we'll come back and we'll talk about more of the risks that we are exposed to in retirement that having a specific retirement income plan will help us to address. Feel more confident about our financial future when we come back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back. This is your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids resource for that common sense approach to planning for our financial future, helping us to navigate this crazy, complex, often confusing financial world, make a little sense of it, and feel more confident about moving through our financial future and what we should be doing, the decisions we should be making with our money. With us today, we have partner at Ron Corser and Associates, Nolan Goslee, with us, and he's a repeat contributor to the program, giving us that information that we need. And we are talking about the retirement income plan, the specific portion of your plan that helps you determine how to utilize all of those retirement accounts and assets efficiently and effectively, and leverage them for the opportunity that they have to provide us as much durable, reliable income as possible into retirement. If you've got questions about that, if you don't know if you have a retirement income plan, pick up the phone, give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. But Ron, another of the issues that having that plan will help us address is the question of cash flow. How much can I generate from my portfolio is a big question that people have some uncertainty about.
Sure. Determining cash flow, how you're going to take money out of your portfolio, there's always rules that are thrown around. We'll talk about some of those rules today, just some of the pitfalls that can, be found within some of the things that maybe worked in the past, but might not work so well right now. I think that it's really important just to keep in mind when determining cash flow, withdrawal rates, everything like that, nothing will ever be the same now as it is, 5, 10, 15 years from now. And so whatever we do today and whatever planning we do today, we will just have to make sure that we're diligent in the future to make sure that it still works. And so that's kind of what we can focus on a little bit is just some of the things that work and some that don't work and pitfalls you can maybe avoid.
However, I would say you're absolutely correct. And I think most of us probably know that. But most retirement projections or plans or models used to forecast that income that are being generated today, most of those are reliant on some of those air quotes here rules that were generated 15, 20 or more years ago when we are obviously in a different environment today.
Sure. Well, one of the ones that we can talk about is withdrawal rate risk, of course, just the amount of money that you're actively taking out of your portfolio. The rule of thumb, as it were, the industry standard for a long time was that if you were in an appropriately balanced, moderate portfolio and you took out 4% of your portfolio per year, that's called the 4% rule, then you have over a 95% chance of not outliving your money. Well, some of the things that are associated with that just sound kind of silly when we think about them now. I mean, a 99% chance, we're all going to live 20, 30 years in retirement. That's a lot of probability to just kind of throw around there. Point number 2, when actually taking withdrawals out of the portfolio, 4% sometimes can be pretty aggressive, especially if you're too conservative when you invest. And so using the rules, but actually understanding the context of the rules is critically important. Now, the 4% rule in particular, the history of that. The 4% rule guy that came up with that said that he wouldn't even use it for his own portfolio at this point.
And there are a number of reasons for that. Interest rates are significantly lower than they were in the mid 90s when he incepted it, and the market is more volatile. And so I think that if we are forecasting what our retirement might look like, we need to understand the assumptions that forecast is based on and question whether those are reliable or not.
Right. And, take everything with a grain of salt. Withdrawal rate risk is a huge one. And there's a reason, like you said, inflation pressures are different than they were when the 4% rule came out. Interest rates are different. The climate here, as far as how we deal with wealth in this country, is a little bit different than it was back then. And so you always just have to say, okay, I am always going to be at withdrawal rate risk. But how can I take some of that withdrawal rate risk off the table? How can I lock in multiple guaranteed streams of income or streams of income that I have a high chance of not outliving, not just I'm going to have everything in the market, and if everything works as it historically has, I should be okay. I don't like should when dealing with somebody's life savings and retirement income.
Maybe, probably,
Yeah, maybe,
hopefully.
words we don't like to use. Yeah.
They all leave a kernel of doubt in my mind of
Yeah,
the
they sure
certainty
do.
of that and how reliable it is. Now, that 4% rule, again, air quotes there, has always left some probability of failure that it sort of felt was acceptable. But if the weatherman says there's a 10% chance of rain today, I may still feel comfortable leaving the house without my umbrella. If my financial plan for leaving the paycheck behind, retiring, exiting the workplace leaves me with a 10% probability of failure with all of the maybe, hopefully, most likely we'll be able to, I'm wondering why there's that 10% chance, and I'm doing everything I can to identify those reasons and eliminate them.
It's a little bit different when it's your income,
Yeah.
it's, when it's your livelihood and when it's literally all that you have that you will probably ever have,
A little rain's not going to change my standard of living, right?
Right, exactly. But if somebody tells you, hey, you got a 90% chance of not outliving your money by the time you're 90, okay, well, that 10% seems pretty big. And that 10% seems pretty big when there's two spouses. And it especially seems pretty big when you think about one spouse being gone, maybe their Social Security being gone, and maybe having less assets than you've ever had. So times like that, it's really important to look at, withdrawal rates, income planning, and make sure that you're addressing the risks associated with it, outliving your money, negative returns, things like that.
Nolan, there's the story of like the highway through the desert, and there's the gas station on the front end of it that says last stop for gas for next 120 miles.
Okay.
Just sort of another analogy there. If my gas meter reads half full and that my range is about 125 miles, like I'm fairly confident that I'll make it, but I'm probably taking the time to stop and fill up at that gas station. And this is sort of that stop. That what you're talking about, the written retirement income plan, is taking that extra time, that extra precaution to eliminate the concern, the fear, and the doubt and the worry.
Yeah, and for us, it comes from a base of prudence. I mean, you really should be prudent with your money, especially when going through huge transitions. We have the conversation with people at every phase of transition, whether you're selling a home, changing jobs, retiring, inheriting, whatever. That conversation always needs to happen. So making sure that you're not taking more risks than you're comfortable with, making sure that you are comfortable and aware of all of the risks that you're taking, and you're taking the ones off the table that you don't want to deal with. You don't want to have to pay for your car if you get in a wreck out of pocket. You buy car insurance. You don't want your family to have to pay for everything if something happens to you. You pay for some life insurance, and so it's the same prudence as what you would do in those two situations. I want to make sure that not only I'm taken care of, but my loved ones are taken care of as well.
You mentioned a critical word, aware, that we are aware of these risks. How many of us, though, have been saving, have been contributing to the 401k, have built up a nice balance, and maybe are not fully aware of the different risks that we'll face once we are creating income from those accounts?
Yeah, and I'd say a lot of people are not aware, and it's through no fault of their own and through no fault of the employer 401k company, but that's just simply not how those accounts are designed.
It's not their job at that point.
Yeah, right. I mean, you get one person that comes in one time per year, maybe, to talk about your 401k plan and go over your allocations and make sure that you're all set. I mean, that's what they say at the end of those meetings. You're all set, right? All set for what? All set for the next year? All set for, until I see you again? Will there be a new rep next time? What if, everything goes down 6 months from now? Am I going to hear from you? And that's just not how 401ks are built. That's why they're so inexpensive. And so, yeah, every other point of transition, I mean, you should be consulting with somebody about it. I mean, you don't fix your own plumbing, you don't fix your own electrical, you don't fix your own finances without, at least having a professional somewhat involved. So
don't do my own dental work nor surgery if I've got something I need.
Yeah. We try not to, right?
Absolutely. Nolan, every financial professional that wants to remain in practice is going to tell their clients that it's impossible to accurately time the market 100% correct all the time.
Sure.
Now, if our retirement is based on the market, if our assets are based on market movements and investments, aren't we simply trying to luck into timing the market and our retirement correctly? And maybe we need to rethink that.
Well, shoot. I mean, yeah. In reality, yes. I mean, let's take a really, really good example and just look at the past 20 years, okay? And we'll divvy it up into two 10-year segments. So we'll go from 01 to 2011, 2010, and then we'll go 2011 to 2020. Two completely different 10-year periods in the markets, okay? Include the pandemic where everything went down at the very end of it. Completely different areas of the market. The 2000 to 2010 was called the lost decade. I mean, it was basically flat for that entire time. You went through a huge dot-com bubble in 2001 through 3, and then a huge housing bubble in 2007 through 2009. So that whole 10-year period, totally different than the next 10 years, where we really only had 2 bad years from 2011 all the way through 2020, and that was 15 and that was 18, you know. So you go from one of the worst 10-year periods we've ever had in the markets to one of the best 10-year periods that we've ever had in the markets, okay? And that's in the market specifically. Well, if you retire during the first 10 years, your retirement looks a lot different than it did during the last 10 years if you were in a 100% market-based portfolio.
What if I retired in 2000 and went through both decades, though? I mean, certainly that prosperous period in the market, one of the best historical bull runs, would have benefited me, right?
Yeah. And, you know, it could have, you know, but again, it depends on the timing. And that's when we get back into timing, you know, it could have done that, but that's if you experience the losses in the beginning and either cut them or didn't take out withdrawals those years, and then took out heavier withdrawals during good years later on down the road. Or, you know, when everything went down 50% from 2001 to 2003, if you were taking out money during that time, you might not have ever recovered out of that. You know, it's real possible that during deep, immediate corrections, either just prior to or just after retiring, they can cause irreparable damage to a retirement portfolio, especially if the income planning portion hasn't been done.
Well, no problem, Nolan. I'll just retire into a period of time where I know the next several years are going to be good years in the market.
I know. Well, I'd let you know when those were. My crystal ball's in the shop this week, so I'll let you know when we know when that 10-year period is.
Well, again, if you would like to get a written retirement income plan so you can do a little better than just flying by the seat of your pants and relying on lucking into a good period in the market for your retirement, pick up the phone, get that course to retirement plan. A big portion of that, the specific written retirement income plan, will help to address many of retirement's greatest risks. And again, Nolan, Ron, the team from Ron Corser and Associates, with that fiduciary responsibility, looking out for your best interest. Ron is a certified financial planner. A CFP's perspective will help you in your planning, design, and implementation, give you a snapshot of where you are, specific recommendations, a timeline of executable action items. And by the way, this is not 1,000 pages of high-level financial jargon. This is simple, easy to understand language that you can take the steps to implement. Pick up the phone if you'd like that course to retirement plan, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go online, roncorser.com. If you are just listening to the program today, excellent resources available there online, roncorser.com. Now, part of that written retirement income plan, Nolan, not necessarily something that is even going to generate compensation for you and the team. And of course, that's going to be a part of the discussion if plans are implemented. But a big part of the written retirement income plan is making the most of available sources we already have out there, such as Social Security and pensions. But this is a big part of the discussion and the planning process is you're helping to maximize those sources and provide as much protection and as little stress and strain and reliance on the rest of the assets as possible.
Yeah. And what we do is just try and take everything and make it work together. You know, a lot of people try and treat those aspects of their finances separately. You know, they treat their pension separately from their Social Security, separately from their 401k. Well, we try and coordinate all those benefits together. So when we're developing income plans, and it starts at the beginning with your basic budgeting and cash flow analysis. So once you do those two things, you have a pretty good idea of how to approach, I don't know, a variety of different situations. And the one that you mentioned in particular, it's you use income planning to take off some of that risk. You use it alongside some of your Social Security planning. We do the Social Security analyses will include your pension and other income sources in the analysis. So the 3 or 4 or 5 different aspects of that all really need to work together. A lot of people will say, well, I don't want my financial advisor talking to my CPA, or I don't want this person involved with that. Well, we try and
why wouldn't you?
Yeah, why wouldn't
I mean,
you? Right.
I mean, I get it. Some people are private and want that privacy to be honored, but you could have the best financial planner in the world, the best accountant, CPA, tax professional, the best legal professional. If they're not coordinating some amount of efforts and discussion about your goals on your behalf, then you may be missing out on a good benefit of those professionals on your team.
Yeah, and that's tough, because we're all about coordination here. I mean, we do wealth management and healthcare in-house for a reason. We try and coordinate the two most important benefits that you have in retirement. So coordinating is huge for us, and just figuring out how things work symbiotically and how they work together really helps alleviate some of those financial strains that people experience when they enter into retirement. So yeah, you got to know all that stuff and learn about it as you take income out of your portfolio, for sure.
Well, I know that while you don't file or prepare the tax returns and you don't design the will or the power of healthcare and attorney documents or, some of the more advanced trusts, if situations require those, you pretty much know where those things are needed and where they're valuable. And you do have professional resources if somebody doesn't have those existing relationships, and where they do have those existing relationships are willing to be an open book per the comfort level of the individual client, right?
Right, exactly. And again, coordination, it's just making sure that everything's working together. You don't want a north and a north magnetic pole pushing against each other. And that's oftentimes what happens when professionals aren't working together. So yeah, working with CPAs, working with estate planning attorneys, we have several resources in the area we refer out if we can't do anything in-house. A lot of basic stuff we can do in-house and try to, so that you don't have to go anywhere else. But yeah, the people that we recommend and the people that we work with, we usually have pretty good relationships with, so that we can coordinate for our clients.
Bottom line, none of these things are in a vacuum. You can't make a decision about any of them without talking about how it impacts and affects other areas. Social Security is not standalone. There's kind of two schools of thought there, and both are the extreme ends of it. You either take it the day that you're eligible, or you wait until 70 to maximize the benefit. But neither one, while both of them have some merit and some benefits, neither one of them are universally correct for everyone. The way I look at Social Security, Nolan, and maybe give your take on it, is that it's a tool to protect the rest of our personal assets, because I can't reach in and pull Social Security out in case of an emergency. I can't get extra. And if I pass away early, it doesn't pass on to my next generation beneficiary. So I want to use it to protect the money that I can do those things with.
Yeah. Yeah. The early versus late, as you said, there's no one standard. I suggested, to my parents, maybe to wait a little bit when they drew theirs. They didn't listen, so they drew theirs basically as soon as they could, but they're definitely of the thought of, I'm going to take advantage of it while I can. I feel confident taking on the risks that I'm taking on. And I understand that it's ultimately my choice and my plan, and ultimately it is everybody's individual choice and everybody's individual plan. But yeah, Social Security early versus late. I mean, what we do when we do analyses for people is we show them a break even. So if you draw early versus drawing late, when is it going to matter? Does it matter if your break even or you've made more money happens when you're 80 maybe not. Maybe you don't plan on spending a whole bunch of additional money at that point. So going through that with folks and saying, well, here's how your Social Security is going to impact your pension. And then here's how drawing your pension plus these assets are going to tax your Social Security. And just working all of it so that everybody understands, well, this is truly an income plan. I have a plan for how I'm going to pay for my healthcare. I have a plan for how I'm going to pay for my taxes. I have a plan for if taxes go up, which account to tap into first. If interest rates go up, which account to tap into first. If I need 50 grand for huge home renovations, which account to tap into first. And so that planning process makes a client feel empowered. You should really feel confident if you have a plan like that, which is why it's so different than just asset allocation, because asset allocation truly is a dart throw. We have reasonable certainty that the US is going to be profitable 75% of the time. And if you're right, then 75% of the time you're going to go up. But it doesn't always happen. And when you're taking money out of your portfolio, you can't subject yourself to all of those risks all at the same time. It's ruined too many of a portfolio when you're trying to draw money off of it.
Again, the written retirement income plan is about identifying the segment of our assets that we don't necessarily want to take that full risk, that we don't want to suffer from volatility on. So we can segment that off and have more predictability, just like the Social Security, just like the pensions, where those day-to-day market movements don't necessarily dictate our day-to-day mood and attitude and then long-term outlook for our finances. But we know, Nolan, that the folks down at the Social Security Administration office, they don't provide proactive guidance on when and how you should claim and collect Social Security. They are not advisors. They do not provide recommendations because they don't know the full situation. Therefore, it probably is a good idea, very beneficial, to get some guidance and recommendations before you go and make that decision. Monetarily, like as a dollar value, Nolan, how much have you seen, at least in kind of the projections there, a mistimed decision versus an optimal decision mean to somebody over the course of expected lifespan and retirement?
Sure. So with Social Security in particular, I mean, if you're talking, draw at 62 versus draw at 70, but you live your life expectancy, you can see some people that because they drew early versus drawing later, if they live long enough, miss out on sometimes between $50,000 and $150,000 of total lifetime benefit just on their own benefit. Of course, that's different depending on what your benefit is. Of course, if your Social Security benefit is $400 per month, that may not be the case. But when dealing with slightly larger numbers than that, you do notice a pretty significant fall off. I was doing a Social Security analysis for some folks just this morning, and both of them had pretty decent Social Security returns. But if they both drew at 62 versus both drawing at age 70, it was the difference between 1.2 and $1.45 million total lifetime income. And so, just that in and of itself really should be a reality check for those thinking about Social Security. It's not just a quick decision. It's not just I'm going to file online because it's easy and I get income next month. You have to make sure, number one, it works with your income plan. Number two, how it's going to be penalized and taxed. And number three, that your spouse or whoever you leave behind, if you do, is well taken care of based on the benefit that you chose. If you draw early, it can negatively affect your spouse. That's, of course, another huge consideration. So sure. all of those things when Social Security is brought into the conversation need to be looked at. And that's why we do the analysis, because they don't do it at the SSA office. They don't do it online. You can't call somebody from SSA and ask these questions. They will just tell you what you're eligible for and what the current laws are.
So between $50,000 and $150,000 in a married couple could be several hundreds of thousands of dollars difference over a lifetime. And that's money that you either get from one source or that you have to generate from your personal assets. And that's why coming in, strategizing, educating, really drilling down on how to structure that written retirement income plan is so beneficial. It could mean a lot less concern and strain and stress and reliance on the personal assets, help you optimize that total portfolio, the total financial plan. Ladies and gentlemen, worth the call, worth the time that you would invest, because Ron, Nolan, the team there at Ron Corson and Associates, they're willing to donate their time to help you put that plan together, provide their guidance, their experience, their perspective in the planning, and get that course to retirement plan in your hands. All you have to do is pick up the phone to get started. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Nolan, I know that, with the COVID year that we have been through, there's a nation of children that have spent at least the last year of school in a very untraditional manner, and a lot of parents have been promoted to the position of at-home teacher. Both the kids and the parents have had some challenges, not just with what to do with the kids for recess and lunchtime and free time, while parents are at home trying to work, but some of the subjects have been challenging. And I know that when you're talking about this retirement income plan, a lot of math goes in it. There are some particular problems with math, issues with math that people may not readily on the surface fully comprehend about creating that retirement income that we need to. For instance, not everybody realizes this. This one is pretty simple, may seem obvious, Nolan, but if we have paid no tax on our retirement savings during our working career, how much of it is going to be taxable once we get into retirement, and how do we factor that in?
Right. Well, all of it. If you use traditional retirement methodologies, which for those of you that are listening who started working 30, 40 years ago, talking to you, you were in historically high interest rates. You were in a very high inflationary environment, and bonds and fixed income investments were paying somewhere between 10 and 12%. And they give you a toaster or a blender if you go buy a CD. I mean, it was really easy to make money back then. Well, the methodology when you're working is that you want to try and put money into a retirement account so that you pay as little in tax as possible. And putting it pre-tax into a traditional account worked very, very well for those people in the 80s and 90s. They put their money away in traditional IRAs, 401ks, and they didn't have to pay tax based on the current tax bracket. That means they're retiring today in much, much lower tax brackets than they were 30, 40 years ago. And it worked out really, really well for those people that are retiring right now. However, if you're listening to this and you have 10, 20, 30 years to go, and you're seeing all this stimulus money getting printed out, and you're seeing a Fed with a pretty aggressive, way that they're going to treat our financial realm here in the US, I expect that taxes might be going up a little bit in the future. So yeah, you're right to point that out, to say the math is kind of funny sometimes, because the pre-tax accounts work really, really well right now because you're paying 10%, 12% Fed instead of paying 20, 30% Fed like you would have been back then. The same might be able to be said 10, 20 years from now, but we don't really know, and so a lot of income planning is just taking that history and saying, well, we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into just one place. Let's come up with a variety of options, put some pre-tax, some post-tax, some non-retirement accounts so that you have access to some of the money before you're 60. So yeah, a variety of different things have to change, but that's a big one, taxes that people are having to pay right now. A good time to pay taxes if there ever is one.
Well, again, today on the program, talking about the risks that can be addressed by having a specific written retirement income plan. Bottom line, it helps us to make informed decisions with our money, helps us to identify opportunities to be more efficient, and tax planning is an aspect of that retirement income plan, which again is a component of the course to retirement plan that Nolan and Ron and the team there at Ron Corson and Associates will put together with you, for you, no cost, no obligation, just as a listener to this program, as an extension of the information and education that they provide here. If you'd like to take advantage, pick up the phone, give a call. Similar reviews, similar plans can easily go upward of $1,000 to several thousands of dollars. They make it available to you, no cost, no obligation, certainly can achieve measurable benefits, very valuable advantages into your financial future and your decision making. So pick up the phone right now, give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Nolan Goslee with us today, planning partner there at Ron Corser & Associates and contributor here on the program. Nolan, we always appreciate joining us on the show and your perspective and guidance. Thank you for being here.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thank you everybody for listening. We hope you're enjoying the show, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Tune in to Ron Corser's full radio program, A Course to Retirement, Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. on WOOD, and visit roncourser.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.